And I really appreciate how you this podcast to me, as I'm thinking about aging. I don't necessarily consider myself a senior quite yet, but I do, like, time is moving more quickly as I get older, and I see being a senior approaching fairly quickly. And so I'm happy just to be having these sort of, like, meaningful discussions about aging and staying healthy and being active, and still realizing that later in life we can take up new things, learn new things, we can change, we can grow and adapt. So yeah, I appreciate what you're doing here with this podcast.
Thank you. Well, the Modern Seniors is actually a branch to my work as a community in the community. Mainly Neil is involved with Beyond the Conversation, an organization that I founded to address the issue, or I'd say the epidemic of loneliness and social isolation that, of course, related to mental health. And so we've been in it for 10 years now. And the concept of Modern Seniors is really, how do we actually inspire and invite the story, building community through storytelling. And so our guests, actually not all seniors. Next month, we have two youth that we're inviting. They're 15 that
That's
we're
great.
inviting to the podcast. And so it's very intergeneration. And we love the journey so far, and just preserving the heritage and the story through heritage and stories of people that have journey in this world.
That's beautiful. It's one of the things when I worked at Vancouver Coastal Health, which I just recently left my job there. We had invited Dr. Kiffer Card from SFU and a few others who were involved with the Canadian Alliance for was it research on social isolation and health. I forget, CASH it's called. I got the name horribly mangled there. But the growing body of evidence that social isolation and loneliness are really negatively impacting health, and conversely, social connection and belonging are really health promoting. And so one of the things with boxing, again, too, I'm on the board of directors at Eastside Boxing in Chinatown. We just raised money for our summer youth program, having youth from Strathcona, Chinatown, Grandview Woodland, elsewhere in the city to come down and being a part of the community, just like meeting people at the gym, having conversations, seeing them at the grocery store and like nodding and saying, hey, like even like that actually, I didn't get a chance to say it earlier, but for me, that actually is just being a part of the community is hugely beneficial and valuable to me. It's something I really, really, really love. And so, I just really thank you for that work that you're doing. It's very important. And happy to contribute to the discussion.
I'm glad that you did mention about community, because that was one of my questions actually that I'm curious to ask you, is that how big is this community and your involvement in it? And one of the things too that you mentioned, I would love to give a little bit of time to this, because there's something that you're also working towards. And I think that is exciting, because as you said, as you are now at that, you passed that time to in the fighting part. Is that the word? Fighting, boxing part.
My fighting days are behind me.
Your
if
fighting
I
days
were ever
are
to have them.
behind.
Yeah.
If you were, yeah. But then there is something that you set your eyes on. Do you want to tell us about that? Yeah, please.
I appreciate you remembering that. And like, I don't know, it's hard to say how big the community is in BC, but certainly there are a few hundred fighters registered in different different classifications, or a couple of hundred at least. And boxing has become more and more popular, like boxing for fitness. So there's a lot more people who are just doing boxing for fitness that are not necessarily registered, as a novice or an open class fighter or whatever. So I think the community in some respects is growing. Although I think there is a difference between the fighting community in a way and the boxing for fitness community. I do think that there's some very particular there is a little bit of space, I think, perhaps between them. But I recognizing that I'm an academic, I really need to, like, my brain is how I pay the mortgage and put groceries on the table. I don't see myself having a fight, although I do enjoy sparring. I do enjoy, the contact I'm okay with. But an email came out a few months ago saying Boxing BC is concerned about a shortage of officials, like scorekeeping judges and referees, timekeepers. And so they asked if any of the members of the different clubs and gyms would be interested in sending some of their people to training sessions to begin reffing and scoring and timekeeping. And so I did that. And I thought, you know what, if I want to be, if I want to be contributing to this community, in addition to my board work at Eastside Boxing, which is minimal compared to the day-to-day operations the staff are doing, obviously. But this to me was one of those ways where I'm like, if I can't be a fighter, not that I can't, but like, if I'm not going to be a fighter, these are other ways I could contribute to the community and be a part of the community. Mm-hmm. And it appears that they've explicitly said there's a need here. So I went down to Richmond to Rain City, down there where they hosted the session, and I've begun to do a little bit of just training sessions, and we'll be going to some fights coming up here in the fall to be shadowing some of the officials, and eventually getting in the ring. And what I didn't realize this at the time, this is a bonus thing. They said that because you're taking the training and you'll be active here in BC, you may be able to go on to ref or score, be a scoring judge at the provincials, or maybe nationals, or PanAm Games, or maybe even the Olympics. And
why not?
And I kind of
Wes, honestly, like, why not?
My chances of going to the Olympics went from 0 to slightly above 0.
Yeah,
we tend
to
there's now a chance.
You can't have these sports without the officials, right?
Yeah.
You can't have soccer, football, baseball, anything without umpires, referees. So it's a very important role.
Maybe one day, 10 years from now, you'll be watching the Olympics and you'll see a slightly older, slightly more grizzled Wes in the ring and be like, hey, I know that guy.
Yeah, well, I can't think of any better person to do that, because you have trained not just your body, but you trained your mind, you trained your eyes, for details, and so there's a lot of commonality. Yeah,
knowing what you're looking at, definitely you need to know what you're looking at. But also what I found too is that it could be quite a workout, reffing in the ring and like moving around and getting out of the way and trying to get in position to see what's happening. And you can actually be and having the boxing footwork of like pivoting and being able to move and keep your balance and like be nimble actually really does seem to come in handy as someone who's in the ring, trying to ref a match. So I actually, I look forward to, getting a little bit of exercise in, reffing in the ring, because first time I got in there and was actually moving around with the fighters, I was like, whoa, I'm actually sweating here. This is real.
I often think that our lives, it's so beautifully woven into something that you're meant to do at this later stage. I often think that in the younger age, when the person is in the ring, there's so much of that ego, but if you're, in your case, being a mature person going into the ring, your perspective and your goals are quite different than probably when you're in your 20s. And so I I'm very observant, and my thinking went into, I think 4 years ago was just the perfect timing for you,
Mm,
because you already, your mind, it's mature in ways that there's the training involved in different ways, and
mm,
you've trained yourself that way. And then coming into this, you're actually being prepared for something bigger.
mm,
So you might think that was just a desire, but I think part of your purpose is that, whatever that is in the future, that's where you're being prepared. And being prepared means you go through those discomforts and
mm.
humbling yourself too. There has to be humility,
Oh,
because you're very academic, but then there's something else that you need to learn. Therefore, you need to set aside the things that you think you know.
yeah. Mhm.
My sister is teaching me how to design, um, and every time she said to me, "You do it the way I say you do it." I'm like, "But I already know how to do this." She says, "No, no, no, the way that I do it." Because to her, she's she achieved the mastery.
Mm,
And as a student,
mhm.
I have to humble myself.
Yeah.
So I
Mm,
think that in life, we think what we're going through is not impactful, but in reality is, Wes,
mhm.
I believe that you have always been prepared to do this, being in the big stage, not as a boxer, but your role is bigger than the boxing.
Oh, thanks, Ami. That's very philosophical, almost spiritual kind of um, framing of that. But I think part of it comes down to, like I said earlier, the difference between a fighter or like someone who's really a boxer. Like you're really, you've got
Yeah.
that natural aggression and you've got that. I don't think I've really ever had